What's good, y'all? It's your boy KCB. We're back at it. We got another one today. So I want to go ahead and make a video on how to make your own loop kits. Actually tried making a video like last night of this, and I just went like way too in depth, and it was like a 50-minute video. So I want to do kind of a quicker one today. So this will kind of be like a two-parter. We'll do kind of like the very basics on how to make your own loop kits, and I'll do another one in the future on like kind of advanced loops because I'm still up in my melody games, and there's some loops I've made that I might have done them, maybe a little bit differently. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about just like the basics to making your own kit. These are some of my kits I've made here: the Lost Soul Loop Kit, the Mythical Melody Kit, the Every Season Melody Kit, and the Expansion Drum Kit. Those are all my BeatStars. But we're just going to go through and kind of see like how you would start making your own kits. We're just gonna go through like the basics of it. So first off, so the thing that you usually want to do is just think about what type of a kit you want to make. I mean, you can make a kit that's kind of mixed just for trap beats that has, some like melodic piano melodies, or it can have, some real simple dark melodies. So you can make a kit that, is kind of a mix of melodies, or you can make a kit, like the way I like doing it is I like making a kit that's kind of like for, like one specific use. So you can make a kit like my Lost Soul Loop kit's pretty much just dark melodies, so that's like hard trap beats. My Mythical Melody kit, it's kind of like a more kind of like lighter, more upbeat melodies, I guess you could say, for kind of an opposite type of beat or a different type of beat than the hard trap beats. So a lot of times I like to just kind of get an idea of what I want to make. Usually a good way to do that, if you don't even know, ask around, see what other producers are using, or what they're looking for in loops, and that'll kind of give you an idea. So that was why I like my last kit made the dark melody loop kit, because a lot of people wanted dark melodies, and a lot of people use dark melodies in their beats. So I'm going to show you guys kind of the basics on how to start making your own loop kits. So that's the first thing, is just kind of what is the concept, what type of loops do you want to have in it. Usually, like in this case, I'm going to show you guys how I kind of made my Lost Soul Loop kit here. So it was mostly trap beats. So first you want to see kind of like, what BPMs are these melodies going to be. So in my case, you can see, so I have my Lost Soul Loop kit here. So I think the slowest is, about 128 for these, up to about 160 right in there. So you want to give them a good range. You don't want all the melodies to be just 1 BPM, because a lot of times when you make beats you're going to use different BPMs. So I kind of have a range there, and then when you advertise you could say, hey, from 120 to 160 BPM or so. So kind of get an idea for that. And so by doing that, like how I would start, I would just kind of open up FL, go to a certain BPM, and then start making my melodies. We're going to go quickly over and just show you what to do once you've made your melodies, because the other video I went and just made a bunch of melodies and just took forever, so I want to kind of cut that out and just get right to it. So with this one here, so this is a melody from my Lost Soul Loop kit here. And so a lot of times when you make loops, like you want different instruments. You want at least 2 to 3 instruments in each loop, so that way it's just not too boring. It's going to be very hard to make a loop with just one instrument, so I generally look for usually around 3. I believe some of these loops in this kit only have 2, because sound selection is really important. And in this case, the dark melodies I made, some of them are pretty simple, but the sound selection is just so good for them that you don't really need any other instruments than just the 2. So kind of keep that in mind. If you have 2 melodies and they fit really well together, and you add a third, it doesn't really work. You can just keep a little more simple and just have the 2. So let's go ahead and look at a melody and see how we're going to start making our own loop here. So we can see here in this melody we have 4 instruments. We got a choir, a bass, I believe this is like a string, and then we have some keys here as well. I have some other videos kind of more in depth on how to make good melodies, so I'll make more of those in the future too, but this is going to be just really a quick rundown on how to make your own loops for your kit. So we can see, so this is what this melody sounds like with the 4 instruments. it's like an 8-bar loop, and so we can see with all these playing here, so I have them just kind of EQ'd a little bit differently. Generally, when you are making your melodies, I like to EQ them so they all kind of have their own like space in the melody. If you have a lot of melodies that have a very similar sound, they're going to kind of conflict, and it's going to be, you know, a little bit harder to hear some of them. And always with melodies, the key is if you can't really hear it that much, then you probably don't need it in the melody. So keep that in mind. Most of my melodies, like especially with these dark ones, it's going to use a lot of low-end sounds. So you can see it's part of a bass, it's a string, more of a choir. So I have like some bass and low mid, kind of like where the bass or the lower choir would be. And then I also have, let's see, and I also have, so this one here, this is the choir that kind of goes through several different, kind of goes from bass to, you know, high mid, but that one's not very powerful, so that's not going to conflict as much, so that's okay to have that there, where I believe this is the, yeah, this is the string, which is kind of a higher mid. So in that case, I kind of lowered on some of where the bass and the low mid is, so it doesn't clash with like our basses and our choir, but I wanted a little bit more of the high mid range on it, so I peaked it just a little bit there, so that way you'll kind of hear it a little bit better on the high end, and it's not going to clash with, it's not going to be too many low sounds coming together there. So just make sure you EQ your melodies. For a lot of these, I added, you know, reverb, Valhalla Supermassive to make them a bit more wide. I panned some of these sounds a little bit just so you can kind of fill the space, so it sounds like you have, you know, melodies that are kind of, you know, all over. Nothing too crazy, but it'll give you a little bit of like you can hear the sound difference. So you can pan your melodies, you can add some stereo to some of the instruments as well. Really just play around. Just hear what sounds good, and then from there you can start making your loop. So like we said, we got an 8-bar here. So with this one, there's a few ways to just start recording your loops. We're going to go into the most basic. So we have, you know, everything here. We have the 8-bar all set up there. So now we just need to record it. So the best way to record is you're generally just going to go, you're going to actually make a, or insert an Edison into the master channel, and so you just go, the Edison's right there, so you just click get the Edison up. So once you have your Edison up from there, alright, so I'm going to show you guys how to start recording your loop for your kit. So we of course want to make sure the track is ready at the beginning, so everything's going to play at the same time. You want to go to here, hit tune loop, you're going to hit record, then we're going to let it play out. So record. Alright, so we have that. First thing you want to do usually is trim the side noise here, so you can hit that. Then I usually will hear, because there's usually part of the melody where you need to cut it off or repeat, so let's listen for that. So it's about right here, and usually you'll be able to see where it is too, so it looked like it's about right here. We'll do that, we're going to do Control X to cut that. Then you're going to go ahead and send it to the playlist. So right there, you click that, and so here it is. So it pops up, and so one other thing I'll do is I'll go back, and so if you go to your playlist, so we can see, so here's the loop right here, and so the loop, so you can see I cut it off right about the perfect point right there. Sometimes if you don't cut it right, you'll see it'll extend a little bit. I like to usually just go back in the Edison and fix it. I've seen some loops from people where they kind of leave a little bit of the end, and you might have to cut a little bit, but I think loops, a lot of times it should just be plug and play. You throw it right in, you don't have to do a ton of stuff with it. You can you know, mess with the sample if you want, or adjust it or reverse it or whatever, but I like to have it pretty clean cut on the end there. So that was the loop that we just recorded right there. So once you have your loop, you're just going to right click, save as, and then I would make a folder. So start making a folder, you know, for this loop kit. So in this case, it was the Lost Soul loop kit. So then you can just, you know, name this whatever, put it in the folder. One other thing too is like, I like to name the loops to kind of go with like the title of your loop kit. So for example, I called this one the Colt, or yeah, just Colt. So you can see like in my Lost Soul loop kit here, they all kind of have like a similar, the names kind of go with the kit. So Lost Soul loop kit, so it's a dirt kit. So we got, Abandoned, Bloodlust, Cave of Horrors, that's Comethazine, Colt, Death in the Wind, Final Days, Fright Night. So I kind of have them all, so it's like, going to be, it's all going to kind of go into the same kit. So it sounds like it, should be in there. So there's not one called like Happy Days in the Lost Soul loop kit or anything, so naming can kind of be hard, but sometimes just I like to think of a word or something that goes along with like that vibe I'm going for, so then that way you can name your beats, or sometimes you can even make the loop and name it later once you figure out what you want to do with the kit. So once you label it, though, one important thing to do is, so I always see how I label this here. So Lost Souls Melody Loop Colt, that's the name of it. C sharp minor, so that's the key and scale, and then the BPM. This is going to be important because when someone gets your kit, they shouldn't really have to think, or try and figure out what the key and scale is or the BPM. You want to make it easy for them. So you can see all my loops here have the BPM and key right on it. So if you don't know what your key is, go into your piano roll. You can go to helpers, go to scale highlighting. This is going to be your root note, so like your key, and then your scale will be right down here. So a lot of these I use the Phrygian scale because it's a really dark scale, which is minor scale. So I would put, in this case it was C sharp minor, which is Phrygian. Could also be, any of these others, or of course if you make majors, then you'll put major instead. But knowing the key and scale is really important because, like I said, if someone's buying your kit, especially, like, they shouldn't have to go through and try and figure out all the keys, scale, and BPM. Just makes it easier for everybody. So that's one big thing too, is making sure, you name it, you have the key and scale, you have the BPM on there. And then one other thing I would recommend too is, so it's going to be a little bit difficult with this one because a lot of the notes are really basic. It doesn't have anything super crazy in it. But like, let's say you make a melody that's like pretty intense, or it has, lots of chords and high notes and just something to where that makes up for, the most of the melody. The way you can start saving your own MIDI is you can go to File, Export as MIDI file, click that, name it whatever, put it in the same kit that you're making, or I would name it, of course, whatever you named the loop, so that way you can go and you'll have two sets. You'll have the actual loop, and then you'll have a MIDI file that also is for that loop anyway. So that way, when the person gets your kit, they can go through the MIDI as well. So maybe if they don't like a certain sound in a melody, they can go to their MIDI and then put their own instruments in. So I'd make sure to do that because that's going to help you out in the long run, and everybody loves MIDI too. So I would just go ahead and save that. And then one other thing you can do too is you can, let's say you made a beat a few weeks ago and you really like the melody, and you're not really selling the beat, or it's not doing super well by itself, but the melody is really good. You can actually go to just open up like a previous project. You can open up like whatever project you want, open it, go to that melody, you can save the MIDI, and then you can record the loop like we just did with this one. So that's a way where if you've already made a bunch of melodies and you just need to record them, you can do that, speed up the process a little bit, name them and put them in your kit. So that's kind of like the basics on how to make a loop, how to record the loop, and then what you want to do in terms of naming the loop, or the key, BPM, adding all of that, just so that way it's going to make it easier for the person that's using it. So like I said, especially if they're paying for it, they definitely should not have to go through and figure it out. Any extra work is just not necessary, especially when selling loop kits. So those are just kind of the basics of how to record your loop and how to start making your own loop kit. Of course, once you have all the loops together, like I generally, for each kit, I would say a small kit would be around 10 to 15. Most of my kits have about 20 melodies, or for big kits you can do 30 or more. It's up to you if you want to include the MIDI, but I would always say it's a good idea to do that. So those are just, you know, a few of my recommendations when you're making a loop kit. I will get more into structuring advanced loops in the future. I'm working on some more loop kits, so when I get closer to finishing those, I'll make another video for you guys. So I hope this helped you guys out on how to make your own loops and start making your own loop kit. Of course, you will need some kind of cover for that too, and your boy makes covers as well, so if you got a dope loop and you need some cover art, you know, you can hit me up and I'll help you out with that as well. So I hope you guys liked the video and you learned something. Hit that sub, like, comment, all that. There's gonna be a lot more videos on the way. So till next time, y'all.